Hello again, and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is Jesse, and I am back for another video in the Growing Up Illegally Cited playlist. I think this is where I'm going to put it. I think it makes the most sense. And in previous videos, I've talked a bit about, a lot of my background and, try to answer a lot of people's questions. How did I get into being an assistive technology specialist? How did I get into doing the whole YouTube thing? How did I get into doing the whole Twitch stream thing? All of that kind of stuff. And I talked a bit about how I got into these things, my background, some of my, favorite or some of my more memorable gaming experiences, tech experiences. But in this video, I think what I want to cover is some things that I learned throughout the process of doing this whole YouTube and streaming thing. I get a lot of people asking, different questions about not just how do I get into doing YouTube, but how do I do it? What advice do you have? I see people on social media and other YouTube videos and stuff. I see people giving different advice on how to handle some of these things. How do you handle criticism? How do you handle burnout? How do you grow an audience? And I'm not an expert in any of these areas by any means. But again, I've been doing this whole YouTube video thing for over 10 years. I started this in 2012. I can't believe it's been actually, yeah, as I'm recording this, it's probably been just over 12 years now because I started in like March or somewhere between March and May of 2012. So it's been, wow, yeah, I mean, we're mid 2024 right now. It's been about 12 years. Jesus. Just felt like yesterday I was doing the 10-year anniversary video. Good Lord. Um, but yeah, that's kind of what I want to talk about. Because a lot of people have different feelings on the matter, and I even have conflicted feelings on the matter. Um, there's a lot to consider if you're thinking about streaming or if you're thinking about even doing YouTube. Um, so, like I said, I got started in YouTube, doing YouTube videos in 2012, early to mid 2012. And I started out kind of thinking, well, my friend and I, we had some Minecraft projects that we wanted to share with other people. And then I just started saying, oh, well, let's just try, what can I do to set my channel apart from all the other tech and gaming channels by then that were already out there? Thousands upon thousands of them, and it's even more competitive now. So that's the first thing I would say is don't just do it because you think it's cool or like, I guess you can, but like I would say look at it like what can you offer differently? What can you offer that would set yourself apart from any number of channels depending on what you want to do? If you're wanting to do gaming content, again, there are gazillions of gaming channels, gaming news, gaming reviews, let's play channels, um, channels that cover a certain type of game, like first person shooter or strategy or roguelike type of games, or walkthroughs, and any number of things, they're already out there. So what can you do that would set yourself apart? Because again, if you're throwing it out there, if you want to do YouTube or streaming, obviously you want at least somebody to maybe see your content, watch your content. So, and I guess I could open this to podcasting as well, whether it's an audio or video podcast. What is going to set me apart from everybody else that's out there? Because if I'm just regurgitating, if I'm repeating everything that everybody else is doing, um, it's not, I may not get the viewers that I want. I have to find some sort of unique quality, whether it's I'm covering a really niche thing, or I'm covering something in a specific way, or I'm serving a very specific, possibly underrepresented or under considered audience. So for me, when I did the YouTube channel, like I said, I started out, I threw up a couple of Minecraft videos, and then I thought, well, this is kind of cool. This doesn't seem that hard. And so I started just covering some games that I was playing. And at the time, I called them Quick Looks because, again, I was inspired by Giant Bomb and their Quick Look videos. That's what they called them. And that was where they just took a raw bit of gameplay. Like they would just turn on a game, turn on their microphone, play it for a while, talk over it, give their honest thoughts. And if good things happen, bad things happen, whatever. It was just kind of this raw, uncut commentary of covering games, and I really liked that rather than the canned reviews that you could tell were scripted. I am talking about this game. The graphics in level 3 were really good. I did not like whatever. You could just kind of tell that something was pre-scripted, and not to say that there are times where that isn't useful for certain types of content, but that's not really what I wanted to produce. That's not really what I wanted to do. I didn't like doing. And so there was that, but then there's also, like I said, even at the time, there were countless numbers of gaming and tech channels out there already. What would set me apart? Well, at the time, to my knowledge anyway, there weren't that many people that were blind, legally blind, low vision, that were covering technology games from that kind of exclusive angle, that point of view. So I thought, well, I can cover games as a low vision player. Maybe there are a lot of other low vision players, maybe totally blind players. If I can find some games that were accessible to people with no usable vision, I could help try and find things that they might want to play. I could cover games. I could kind of not necessarily review them, but I don't call what I do reviews. They're more like spotlight videos. They're kind of reviews, but they're kind of just like, hey, let's try a game and check it out. But I look at both, how is it as a game? Is it fun? Is it frustrating? But then I also look at, how is the game or the technology product? Is it accessible? Do I like it as a low vision user? Is it straightforward to use? If I were totally blind and using a screen reader or voiceover, narrator, NVDA, JAWS, can I use it in that way? And so that was kind of my niche that I built. I started covering a lot of PC games because that's what I had the ability to cover. And then I was able to start figuring out a couple ways to cover iOS games and apps, and that's where my channel, I think, really took off, because that's where, again, a lot of blind and visually impaired users were flocking to iOS because of its accessibility features and its apps that were coming out regularly. And so that's sort of how I built my thing. And then in my channel, in around 2015, 16, there was this whole VR craze that was like, oh man, we got the Oculus Rift coming out. We have the HTC Vive. We're going to have the PlayStation VR. Okay, this is actually kind of becoming a thing again. It's actually becoming viable. And again, I was very interested in VR. I had tried VR even a little bit. I got to see an early type of VR in 1995, believe it or not. I talked about that in an earlier video in this series, so check that out. But, I was always fascinated by virtual reality. And so I ended up getting an Oculus Rift, and I think even to this day, there aren't that many people out there who are blind or visually impaired who are covering virtual reality, because, well, it is not, like, when it works, it's amazing. It is still one of the coolest things I've ever seen, and it's very effective. But unfortunately, unlike all of our flat screen apps and games and stuff like that, VR does not really have much in the way of blind low vision accessibility. There's a little bit on the PlayStation VR 2, but that's really about it. The Apple Vision Pro, Does have some nice accessibility from what I heard, but it's so damn expensive that it is pretty much out of range for most people. So until they come up with a more reasonably priced version of that, that's not really going to be a thing for many people. But because I had an Oculus Rift at the time, and then I got a Quest 1, it was another niche. I could say, hey, this is what sets me apart from all these new VR content creators out there. I'm covering this as a legally blind user. And these are things that a lot of people, like developers, maybe don't even consider when developing their app or experience or a game. Because again, I love VR games, but I found just as enjoyable, if not more so, I found myself really, really loving the interactive documentaries, the educational, the kicking back and watching something type of thing. If it was immersive, I've had a lot of memorable experiences doing that in VR. So that's, a long way to say that is how I've tried to differentiate my channel from all the other ones that are out there. On top of that, I think the other important thing is establishing a regular release schedule, whether you're streaming, doing a podcast, doing your videos on YouTube. I think really a thing that people maybe either overlook or don't consider as much. I see channels, especially YouTube channels or streams, not so much podcasts. Usually, they tend to have, from what I have noticed, they tend to have like either a weekly schedule, a daily schedule, maybe every 2 weeks or once a month, whatever. They generally tend to follow more of a schedule. But people streaming or doing YouTube content, I see a lot of people who will just like, well, I have time to record, so I'm going to record, and then I'm going to release like 5 videos in 3 days. And then I may not release a video for a few days, or I release one really good video and then I take a break and I do it, a week or 2 later or whatever. But there's not really a consistent schedule. And if you want to grow your user base, if you want to grow your viewers or listeners or whatever, I really do think that having a regular schedule, at least as a baseline, can be really helpful. When I started the video, I didn't know how much I would do it. I didn't know how hard it would be. I didn't know how long I would stay with it, if I would follow through. So I did videos every Saturday. I did once a week. Every Saturday I did a video, and that was my schedule. Then I thought, well, I'm actually cranking out a lot of different videos here, and I'm kind of building up a backlog. So I said, let's do Wednesday and Fridays, middle of the week, weekend, end of the week. And that worked out pretty well. Well, then I started streaming a few years back, and I thought, well, I don't want to really use up one of my days for keeping up with streams. So I didn't want to, dig into my Wednesday or Saturday video. So I thought, okay, I was streaming on Mixer at the time because that was a thing before they killed it. And so I thought, okay, Monday mixers. Okay, well, let's do that. Then that way I can I can archive my streams on my YouTube channel, and I don't have to worry about interrupting my regularly Wednesday or Saturday schedules. The other thing that I do, and I still do to this day, and so some people might wonder like, oh, this video seems like you recorded it a while ago. And yeah, I probably did. So what I do is, there are times where I have a lot of time to record. There are times where I don't have a lot of time to record, or I don't feel like recording. Like, I don't feel like recording a video. I don't feel well, or I just don't feel like it. I don't feel inspired to cover anything, or there's not a game that's hooking me at the moment. So I record things when I can, and I upload them to my channel as private. So there's a ton of videos on my channel that are already up that you guys can't see, and I unlock them on a scheduled day. So, there are games that I can pretty much cover anytime, or apps that I can cover anytime. And so they're not super time sensitive. So I'll just put them kind of in my backlog, and then I will just unlock them when one of those Monday, Wednesday, Saturdays come up, because I've taken a hiatus from streaming as of the last year or so. So I'm still doing Monday videos, but those aren't exclusively for Stream Archives anymore, because A, Mixer's gone, and so I started streaming on Twitch, but then I even kind of again gave a hiatus on that for a while, which I'll talk about later. So now, since I really established a Monday, Wednesday, Saturday schedule, I'm just sticking to it, and I'm putting other regular videos in the Monday slot. But now people, if they follow my channel, they know that at bare minimum, they should kind of expect 3 videos a week from me, and roughly when to expect them. Now, they may be different times of the day. Sometimes I do it right away in the morning. Sometimes I do it midday. Sometimes I do it later in the day because there's something timely that I might want to cover that happened that day. But you know that during that day at some point, there's going to be a video. So rather than just, I think spewing out a whole bunch of videos at once and then having gaps, and so you kind of have this weird irregular schedule, you can do that, but I think it's going to be harder to build and maintain a user audience at that point. So you can record things, yeah, like today, literally, this is my 3rd video that I'm recording today. I've recorded 2 other videos, and I might even record more because I'm kind of in the mood. I'm kind of in the groove. I'm feeling it. There's a lot of things that I know I want to cover and that I've just recorded that I can cover. So I'm going to record a bunch of these and upload them in the next couple of days, and so they'll be ready. The other thing that I try to do on a similar note is I try and mix things up a little bit. So it depends on what kind of a channel you're doing, so whether, I'm a tech and gaming channel or a tech and gaming accessibility channel. So I cover apps, I cover hardware, I cover accessibility software and hardware. I cover mainstream games that I play visually. I cover games that are playable to blind players. And any number of things, videos like this, channel updates, event recaps, and my thoughts on things like, WWDC, E3, GAConf, any number of things. So I have a lot of different topic areas that I can pull from, and I don't want to cover like the same thing a whole bunch of times in a row. So, for instance, I'm very much into first-person shooters, especially boomer shooters, retro shooters, or whatever you want to call them. But I'm not going to do necessarily 3, 4, 5 of those videos in a row, even though I probably easily could. So I want to kind of split it up to give people different things to expect. So like, okay, today, people who like first-person shooters might like today's video. Well, we get a lot of people. I've had a lot of great comments. Thank you, by the way, from people who like the fact that I cover indie games. And I've been playing a lot of indie games the last several years, and so I want to give attention to a lot of these games that maybe get less recognition than they should. So I try to spread it out through some indie games. There's not as many games out there that are playable for players without sight, or players who are totally blind. So because I know there aren't that as many, I try to space those out. I know people would like me to cover more of them, but again, there's just not that many, or not near as many as there are visual sighted games. So I'll cover some indie games, I'll cover some hardware, I'll cover some events, and then usually at least once every week or two, I will try to put in a video whether it's an app or whether it's a game or something that a totally blind user will be able to get some use out of, or be able to, it'll be helpful for them. So I space those out. And so now, again, I've got, like, let's just look at my recent videos here. Today, I actually have a double feature because there was a kind of a timely thing of like, oh, there was a Steam Next Fest last week. And so I tried a bunch of game demos. And so today I decided, let's do a double feature. So I have a couple of racing game demos that I so happen to play. I've got a futuristic F-Zero type racing game, and I've got an old school rally racing game. And so let's make today a racing double feature. A game that I really, really liked and I want to encourage low vision players to try. I've got Fallen Aces right here. Love that game. That came out in early access. I've got an assistive technology video here. So I've got that type of thing. And so I try to mix things up, offer variety. Now, again, that depends. Like if you are a person who only plays a specific game, maybe you really focus on Minecraft or Call of Duty, or you cover Windows tips or assistive technology tips, you can still even vary your content that, in those areas. So like, if I was doing only Minecraft content, maybe one day I would focus on how to create a certain type of item in the game, or tips for doing certain things in a certain biome, or I could do something on like some of my favorite mods. I could have like a Mod Monday, or I could do like a survival thing for one day. Like, oh, I'm just working my way through a survival playthrough, or you get the idea. There's things that you can do even if you're covering like one type of thing, to where you can kind of mix it up and offer your audience some variety. But I think really having that core schedule. Now you can add to that. Again, I've done that a lot recently because late May, early June especially has had so many tech and gaming events. We had the Summer Game Fest, we had WWDC, we had the Game Accessibility Conference a couple months ago. We've had Google, Microsoft, Nintendo, all these companies have had all their own events, and there's things that I've wanted to talk about as a gamer, as a accessibility advocate and consultant, just as a player or user that I wanted to cover. So yeah, I might do some extra videos on a Sunday, on a Tuesday. I might do things, maybe it's on a holiday, and maybe that falls on a day that I don't normally upload. I'm like, well, here's a holiday video. I'm like, oh, it's a Christmas, and I found a cute little Christmas game. So maybe I'll do a Christmas content. Toward the end of the year, I do my year in review. So I'll have a week of videos where I cover different aspects of tech and gaming throughout the year. So regardless, I keep my core 3 days a week, and then I can just work from there as a base. And if I want to add more, I can. But I still just give people enough like of an expectation, like this is what you should expect from my channel. Then we get into a little bit more of the trickier stuff. So right now, before we get into some of that, people also ask, and I think I covered this in an earlier Growing Up Illegally Cited video where I talked about how I got into YouTube creation and streaming. But a lot of people ask, what software do I use? How do I do it? How do I do editing? All those types of things. Well, so for recording things and even for streaming, I used to use different software, but I mainly use OBS these days. I don't use Streamlabs. I just use OBS Studio, and that generally works pretty well. I've streamed with it. I record YouTube videos with it, and it generally works fine for recording computer stuff. So what I'm using now. For iOS content, I use an app called Reflector. It's Reflector 4 is the current version. And this is a program where you run it and you turn your computer into an AirPlay server. So when I go on my phone or my iPad, if I go to AirPlay on my control center, and I'll see my computer show up there, and then a little number will appear in the top of my screen, which I can use NVDA to read that. I have tested this. I just read it visually because it's huge. but you can do it with a screen reader. I have tested this. And then, yeah, it just mirrors your audio and your video to your computer, and then I still use OBS to record it. So, I just record it like I do any other program, and that's how I do all my iOS videos. And those are really mostly what I use. If I record anything from a console, my PlayStation or my Xbox, I use both of their native streaming apps. Like I use the Xbox app in Windows to stream my console to my PC. That works pretty well. PlayStation has a PS Remote streaming app that you can download for free. It's not quite as good. I notice a little bit more lag or a little bit more chop, but that's how I've recorded some PlayStation 4 and 5 footage. And I've streamed a couple things that way. And that's really about it. That's what I do. I mean, if I'm doing a hardware review, I typically just use my iPhone and I record with that camera. One recent video that I did for the Meta Ray-Ban sunglasses, smart glasses, I actually use my webcam I have a separate webcam on top of my monitor, and I just use that and the camera app. So I just opened up the camera app and it showed me in front of the camera with my sunglasses on, whatever. And then I just use OBS and I had the camera app in focus and I just recorded my screen, and that way I was able to review and show my Meta Ray-Ban glasses, like showing that. And so I've used that as an option. It doesn't really have to be any more complicated than that. A lot of people might think, well, I have to, I want to make this as professional as I can. I got to go out and buy thousands of dollars or hundreds or thousands of dollars worth of equipment. And I really don't think you do. You don't want to be completely bad quality. I mean, like I said, go back and look at some of my videos from last year, where I think it was last year or it was like the year before, 2022-ish, early 2023, where the previous headset that I was using that had really good audio quality or microphone quality broke. I bought a replacement. They don't make that model anymore, so I bought a different kind. I used it, it worked, but I was never happy with it. And so I don't like some of those videos that I did around that time frame because they were so inconsistent. The microphone sometimes it would be loud, sometimes it would be soft, sometimes it would sound teeny. It just wasn't a great microphone, but I used what I could. And then I found these Turtle Beach stealth headset that I did a hardware review on last year. Love them. They sound much better microphone quality wise again. And these were about $150, $170 depending on when and where you get them. So it was a bit of an investment, but I mean, I don't need a $1,000 microphone. I'm sure if you're like a real audiophile, you'll notice some difference, and sure, there could be better microphones out there. I mean, I know there are. But for what I do and how I do it, it works fine. I use, the iPhone cameras are really good these days. So if I need to cover hardware and do a video with that, as long as my lighting is halfway decent, I think those have turned out well. I've seen a few blind users, totally blind users do videos where it'll just be like a weird, like it'll be like a corner of something, or it'll be part of their head, or there was one video where like it looked like the person was rocking back and forth and the camera was going whoop, whoop, whoop. That's not good. Especially the rocking thing, or like if the camera is moving around a lot, jostling around a lot, that can actually make people motion sick, or just it's just uncomfortable for people to watch. So you really want to try to keep your camera at least fairly steady, swaying, rocking back and forth. Not a good idea. You can get a cheap like a camera tripod or something that you just slide your phone into. I've got a couple different ones. I have a small one that's nice that I've used, and I just got a bigger one that you can even put a tablet into that's really sturdy. And that way, again, especially if you use iOS's accessibility features for their camera, point it at, even if you don't want to be on camera, like I don't want to be on camera much of the time. So if I were doing that and I was just wanting to point it at something, like if I'm in my house, point it at like I don't know, point it at like a painting on the wall. Point it at out the window if you got a nice view of some trees or, some nature, just like pointing it out your window so you have something interesting to look at. But the fact that the camera is steady, if you're using the accessibility thing and it kind of the camera tells you what is in focus, or maybe you put it on the tripod and you use something like Be My Eyes and say, hey, what is in this scene? And then if I don't move the camera, it says, oh, there's a picture of I don't know, like there's a picture of an old house on the wall. And then you could ask a follow-up question and say, is the picture pretty centered in the image? And be like, oh yeah, it's centered, but it's maybe a little bit more to the left or whatever. And you could kind of, or if you get sighted assistance just to try to know where to put your camera, maybe put some tape on the floor or something so you know where to put your tripod in the future. There are things that you could do for that. But I mean, like I said, you're not spending a bunch of money, you're not buying a bunch of extra devices, but you're actually having a little bit of, you're adding that basic level of professionality to it. Professionalism. I don't know if professionality is a word. Even things for like audio podcasts. Like I said, I was unhappy with the way that my microphone was for about I don't know, 9-10 month period there. So I apologize for that, but I'm glad I was able to remedy that. If you're holding your phone doing a podcast, again, maybe you're kind of regularly playing with your phone or you're rocking, and so the microphone is sort of brushing up against your clothing or something. That's the kind of thing that you want to avoid. Set your phone down, whether it's on a desk, whether it's in a tripod or something, just something so that, it's just you that you're going to be hearing, for the most part. Like, there may be some background noises, sure, that's fine. But avoiding something that's going to be causing regular video or audio oddities, things like that. Like I said, you don't have to spend a lot of money, but there are just a few things that you can do to add that extra basic level of polish, and it really doesn't take much of anything to do that. But these are just things that maybe people don't consider. Again, I'm sitting in my chair and I'm rocking back and forth, and I know that like my chair does have a little bit of a creak to it, so you might hear that every once in a while. But I'm not going to rock back and forth and continuously annoy people with a creak, 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 or brushing my hand along the phone or the microphone and being like, that's obnoxious. Little things like that you want to avoid. So we talked about, what you need for hardware, again, a good microphone, a good headset, and I would say headsets are really a good idea, whether you have a separate microphone or you're using a headset, pair of headphones that has a microphone on it like I am. Wearing headphones can be a really good idea, especially for blind low vision users, because, again, if you're starting or stopping a video or something happens, you maybe have a notification and you forget to do not disturb, which I have done on occasion. If you're wearing headphones, the audience doesn't have to hear your screen reader. You want them to hear what you're talking about, what you're showing. So when I'm showing the computer, it's going to be showing, the audio is going to be my computer and me talking. But hopefully it's not going to be hearing things that I don't want it to hear. Or if I'm using the microphone on my phone, it'll still use my microphone on my phone, but if I plug headphones in, to my phone, they won't have to hear that. I mean, that's one of my pet peeves. Like, I have all these meetings, like Teams meetings and Zoom meetings at work. And a lot of the blind and low vision users, they come in and it's like, blah, 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 like there's just this constant screen reader chatter. I'm like, dude, just put headphones in. Like, it's, then you can hear whatever you need to, and you won't be disrupting everybody else. Like, it's just, I don't know, it just bugs me for some reason. As far as editing, I'll be honest with you, this is one area that you're going to have to turn to someone else for at the moment, because admittedly, one of the advantages of this whole quick look spotlight series style video that I do is I might have to start over if I fumble my wording and I screw up the beginning of my video, but usually once I get started, once I get 2, 3, 4 minutes into a video, I'm good and I can just kind of go from there. And I cover an app, I cover a game, I cover a piece of hardware, whatever it happens to be, and I just cover it as is. Sometimes I have little hiccups here and there, but sometimes I think it's actually helpful to even show those types of things, because not everything is canned, not everything is perfect, and you're going to have weird oddities, and how hard is it to troubleshoot your way out of those types of things. And so I think it's sometimes helpful to show that type of thing, at least for what I'm doing. But the other advantage is I don't really have any video editing experience. And so the laziness part of me, or the inexperienced part of me, says, well, the nice thing about these spotlight videos and the way that I record content is I just let the camera roll, let the microphone roll, whatever, and it's largely uncut. I try to speak as clearly as I can, as eloquently as I can. I've made more of a conscious effort over the last several years as I've been recording doing these YouTube videos. I still have my quirks. I still say or or things like that. I still say those maybe more than I would like at times. But it's really helped me doing this YouTube channel. It's helped my public speaking immensely. So, like, on Monday, I'm recording this over a weekend, and this coming Monday, I have a presentation that I need to give to a whole bunch of students at work. And that doesn't even faze me anymore. Like, I have no problem doing that. I have no problem if I need to speak 15 minutes, half hour, whatever. Just doing the streams, doing the YouTube videos for the past 10 years, 12 years has really helped, not just me getting better on the channel overall, but thinking through what I want to say for a video, or for a lesson, or for an assessment, or just speaking to people in general, maybe trying to ask a question coherently, explain something coherently. It helps. It's just like playing an instrument or practicing a skill. The more you do it, the better you're going to be. I mean, I go back to some of my earlier videos, and they're not as bad as I thought they would be, but I definitely noticed that I have improved over time. And even if it doesn't sound a lot of different in some cases, just the way that I feel, I'm more comfortable, I'm more confident in doing it. So, there's that. Where was I going with this? I was talking about video editing. So yeah, but that's the way I record. And so because I don't really have much in the way of video editing software, I've used Windows Movie Maker to do a couple of minor video edits in the past. I've done a little bit of YouTube. Like, when I upload a video, you can edit in YouTube's editor, although I haven't really figured that out very well either. But aside from a few minor like splits, or combining a couple of videos into one, or a couple maybe minor edits here and there, the large part of what I do, I don't edit anything, for better or for worse. I mean, record, go, and when I'm done, I check it to make sure that it recorded, and then I upload it. That's kind of my spiel. So it depends. Again, it depends on what kind of content you want to make. Do you want to do more informal, off the cuff recording like I do? Do you want to have more of a polished, like, do you want to make more of a documentary style or more of a scripted style? Yeah, in that case, you are going to have to learn and do more video editing or audio editing if you're doing an audio podcast. And in those cases, I can't really tell you what programs I would recommend because what little I've just used magnification to do, and I don't know how accessible like the YouTube editor is. I don't really know how screen reader accessible Windows Movie Maker is. Hell, I don't even know if Movie Maker is still much of a thing anymore. But as far as other software goes, I would defer to other blind low vision content creators to see what they use for video and audio editing. I know Audacity is quite accessible. I know I have a coworker who also does audio production work and he loves Audacity. So that could be a pretty good thing, and Audacity is free, so there's that. But for video editing, I don't know. So that's kind of some of the mechanics, some of the things that I've observed from other people, some of the things that I've learned by doing my own content. The other thing that I really feel that I have to touch on is there's been a lot of debate as far as like, how should I do this? Am I going to try to do YouTube creation or Twitch streaming? Am I going to make this a career? Can I support myself on it? And my answer to you is it's not impossible. Yes, some people do it. However, I would not highly recommend it. I would not, at least to start with, don't count on it. You're going to have to put in a lot of work. Because depending on the type of content that you want to do and how much you want to do and how much you want to build and how much you might want to make, there's a lot of work to it. It's not just, hitting the record and blabbing for a little while and hoping that thousands and thousands or millions of people come visit your channel. You kind of have to develop your voice for yourself, the style, focus in on what kind of content you want to use, as I talked about before. And you have to, reach out. You have to be on social media or maybe partner with other podcasters, video creators, streamers. Maybe you promote their stuff and they help promote you. Maybe you do an interview with some other people or they interview you. You guest on a podcast or something. I've done that several times. Maybe you do local presentations, like I've done local presentations for our independent game developers chapter. Or I've spoke at the Game Accessibility Conference a couple times. There's no right or wrong way to do it, but you really have to get the word out there for what you're doing. Now, granted, I could probably have more if I used Facebook, if I used TikTok. I guess personally, I just don't really have any interest in TikTok at all. I don't have a whole bunch of interest in Facebook either. In fact, I canceled my Facebook account a few years ago. But that's the choice you have to make. Is I know that I might be losing out on some viewers, but I only have so much time in a day. And I don't want to be on social media all day. So I know a lot of people have abandoned Twitter/X, but since I've started this YouTube gig and accessibility advocacy and consulting work, I'm kind of loyal to Twitter because I've met so many people. I've made so many friends, but I've also made many professional connections. I've reached out to people. People have reached out to me. I've talked to developers, creators, other blind low vision users. Um, I've used it to advocate and reach out to developers to help improve accessibility for their games. I've reached out for trying to get coverage on a few things here and there, and sometimes that's panned out. Um, I mean, heck, I actually, through YouTube and Twitch and Twitter, I actually had a girlfriend for a while, you know? I mean, I wish that would have worked out, but that was a very unexpected thing. That's sort of how they'd show up in my stream and started talking on Twitter, started talking elsewhere, and one thing led to another, and had a girlfriend for a while. So I mean, like I said, professional, personal, other, whatever. Um, Twitter's been really good to me, and as far as like all the ads and the negativity and drama, I just ignore what I can, block if it's something that I can block that I just really don't want to hear from anymore, and that's really what I do. I really don't treat Twitter any differently than I did 5, 7 years ago. The only thing that makes it really less effective now is just the fact that I'm still there and not as many other people are. And so a lot of the people that I would follow or that I would interact with have left. And again, I don't want to devote my life to social media. So I have joined Blue Sky. I am on there. You can look up Illegally Cited. So that's the one because it's sort of the most like Twitter, and it seemed voiceover wise, it's not. It's accessible, but there's definitely improvements that need to be made. Maybe I'll do a spotlight video for Blue Sky at some point. But again, I have to figure out what I want to do. How much do I want to devote to it? And for me personally, I'm not looking at YouTube as a career. I'm doing it because I enjoy it. I'm doing it because I find it fun most of the time. I like helping people. It's kind of fun being entertaining every once in a while. If I can help people, if I can entertain people, like I said in other videos, I've gotten responses from people, comments from people via email or in the comments of videos saying, I thought I was done with gaming. I thought I couldn't use this on iPhone. I thought I, couldn't do what I wanted to do anymore because I lost my vision or what have you. And then I found your channel, and I've gotten just really, really awesome thank you messages from people. And that helps keep me going. But I have a day job, and that's the other thing is I have a full-time day job. I don't want to rely on the government. I don't want to. I mean, you can't even live off of SSI these days. Like, there's no way. And then you got to have, like, if you're on one government benefit, then you got to be on 12 because, well, then I need SSI, then I need medical assistance, I need food assistance, I need subsidized housing, and I feel like I'm mooching. I'm taking, and what am I giving back? I'm blind, I'm not incapable. I'm visually impaired, I'm not incapable. Even if I volunteer somewhere to help people, I don't want to be another statistic in the horrible unemployment and underemployment statistic for blind or disabled people. I want to feel like I'm living on my own. I have been for years and years. I live on my own. I've gotten my way through my college education. I have a full-time job. I have a secondary career that I don't make a lot of money on, but I make a little bit of money and it gives me enjoyment. I love doing it. I love doing this tech and game accessibility stuff outside of my assistive technology day job. Um, but again, it's like I want to feel like I'm doing something, and I'm not a mooch. I'm not relying on people handing me everything. But as far as the content creation, if you were looking for that as a career, I would strongly encourage start it as a hobby, see how well you like it. If you want, you can monetize your stream or monetize your channel. Um, but start it as a hobby, start it as a secondary thing. Like maybe if you want to use it for extra income, still maybe have that day job, at least a part-time job, maybe a full-time job. I would not bank on relying on these platforms, YouTube, Twitch. There's another one that I can't remember that people don't really talk about much, but there's some other streaming or video service out there. But Twitch and YouTube are the main ones. There's so many things that, half the time in my YouTube feed, it's always somebody complaining about, well, the algorithm, it worked before and now it doesn't. And now I'm not getting paid. I'm losing subscribers. I'm getting videos are demonetized because I said a certain word, or, people are so worried about everything because they're going to get demonetized. That's the other thing is I haven't monetized my channel, not because I don't want to, but because I just don't want to have to deal with a lot of the headaches that come with that. I mean, yes, I would love to make some extra money, but I don't have millions of subscribers. So, I mean, yeah, it would be nice if I made $20 a year or something maybe, but um, I have a comfortable day job. I have other income. So I'm doing this to help people. I'm doing it for fun. But like, I don't want to have to be like, oh, what's the word? Like, if I have a serious topic, like something happened recently with gun violence or COVID, or if somebody I knew, let's say, was going through some hard medical procedures, or somebody I knew committed suicide. Yes, I said that word just now, but people, they don't say these words. They don't. Well, I can't say this word. I got to edit. I can't, and they're not even swear words. They're just words that have a serious meaning. And people say, well, I can't say this. I can't say that. Um, and they're editing themselves so much that I don't want to worry about that. If there's something serious I want to talk about, whether it's, positive or not, um, I'm not going to worry about, well, this is going to demonetize my video. Um, so there's that. Because, and again, the terms of service are always changing, and the way the algorithm works for Twitch and YouTube is always changing, and no one really knows exactly what these algorithms are doing. So it's really hard to tell, it's hard to know whether something is going to cause a jump in viewers or if it's going to result in you losing some viewership or subscribers. Who knows? And some of the goofiest things, like I've seen where there's this trend for the YouTube thumbnails where I'm scrolling through my feed and all I see for thumbnails is people making goofy, dumb faces for the camera. Oh, but that's what the algorithm likes. So every video has got a thumbnail of somebody with their mouth wide open and making a weird face. And I think it just looks stupid. But if all you're doing is trend chasing, I guess that's what people are doing. Oh, well, being more negative and bitching about everything that's what gets viewers. So I'm going to sensationalize and I'm going to complain and whine and bitch about everything. So that's what gets me more monetization, because I mean, I guess some people might enjoy that, but like, I don't, yes, I complain on my channel from time to time. I rant on my channel from time to time, But I generally want to be positive. I generally want to highlight cool apps and games and tech that I like, that are fun, that are useful to blind, visually impaired people or anybody. It's just stuff like that, you know. Um, and again, that's the other strategy where I use as far as like for burnout. You know, people talk a lot about overwork and burnout and just fatigue of being on all the time, and I get that. That's why I establish a schedule. I record videos ahead of time, and then I just unlock them at will. So maybe I don't feel like there are times where I don't record a video for a week or more, but I still have content to go. And people don't know that I don't record a video. People don't know if I'm sick for a few days, or if I'm on vacation, maybe going to see family. As far as you guys are concerned, the schedule just keeps on going. But as far as streaming goes, I started streaming in like 2019, and I largely stopped middle of last year. Even before then, I slowed down a bit. I enjoy streaming. There is something really fun about having, a few people in the audience. Especially, I started getting a few regulars in, which I very, very much appreciate it. Thank you to everybody, by the way. Um, but it was cool, having a conversation just about life and the game I was playing or whatever. That was fun. But at the same time, I'm doing YouTube. I've got a full-time job. I'm doing consulting work. There's other things outside of technology that I want to do. I want to be active more. I want to exercise more. I've been playing a lot more drums lately, and I really enjoy that. And so I want to be able to do that more. Just any number of things. So, about a year and a half ago, I thought, well, something's going to have to give. I'm going to pull back a little bit on something. And YouTube, again, I'm releasing things on a regular schedule, but I'm recording whenever. Like streaming, again, if I'm streaming live, if I'm podcasting or streaming live, you want to be on. When you're live, you want to be with it. You want to be energetic. You want to be entertaining or engaging for your audience. And sometimes it was like, well, I was streaming and Saturday evening would come along. I'm like, I don't know if I feel like streaming, but I guess I will because I want to keep my schedule. I want to let people know that this is generally the time that I usually stream. And I would usually get into it after a while, but there are times where you could probably tell that I just wasn't into streaming that particular day. And especially for people who stream multiple times a week, um, sometimes you just want to have time off. Like there's sometimes where I just, that was a thing that gave because I wanted to play games, but I didn't want to be talking on the camera. I didn't want to have to be recording a video. I didn't want to have to be streaming and, kind of performing for people. I just want to fire up a game, relax, and enjoy a game before all this YouTube and social media stuff. Like I just wanted to play it for me. And so that's what I took a break on. I'm not going to say that I'll never stream again. I still promote my Twitch website, although I haven't done it much lately. But that's why that's taken a back seat because I have so much other stuff going on. I find myself liking the YouTube stuff better. And as much as I do like streaming sometimes, that was the one thing that I felt comfortable saying, that's the thing that I could go. That's the thing that could go. And again, as far as the monetization goes, making a living, in order to really sustain yourself, if you want to do this as a living, for a living, you have to, even a couple thousand subscribers or viewers probably won't give you all that much. as everyone well knows, cost of living is expensive now. Everything is going up. Rent, groceries, bills, anything and everything is so high priced now. And you're going to have to be, like I said, you're going to have to be regular. You're going to have to, like, if you're relying only on Twitch streams or a YouTube channel, so many people are doing Patreons. So many people are doing, like, I guess there's this new thing that I heard about, or the thing that I never heard about until recently called Thrones, I guess. But it's weird because we're in the age of everybody's begging for money these days. I mean, before it was like I'd go get a job, I'd earn my paycheck, and then I would buy stuff. Now we're in the age of like anybody and everybody is begging for money. Not to say that, a Patreon is a bad thing. And there's a lot of people that I might want to support via Patreon. But again, if everyone is doing a Patreon, people complain about streaming services and stuff like Netflix and Hulu and all this. If I follow a dozen content creators, 20 content creators, whether it's podcasts, videos, streams, if I got to subscribe to every one of those because I like them and I want to support them, and ideally, yeah, I'd love to support them all, but my God, man, someone's going to lose out because not everyone's going to be able to support all of their favorite creators. Maybe I'll support one or two that I really, really, really like, but I'm not necessarily going to go do a GoFundMe or a Patreon for everybody that I follow. I followed probably dozens of podcasts. My YouTube subscription list is ginormous, and there's no way I'll be able to Patreon everybody. So if you're on that end of wanting people to do Patreons, realistically, you're going to get a fraction of people of your viewing audience that's going to be able to do that. And, if you can get enough people, enough percentage of your audience that will allow you to support yourself, more power to you. Congratulations. Good job, because that's not easy. And just remember, like I said, something in the algorithm could change. Something could change with, other things, and people won't be able to support you on Patreon as much, or, whatever. Any number of things could happen where you're going good for a year or two, and then something drops out from the bottom under you, and that could be a problem. And finally, if you're looking at a living, contrary to what you might want or what you might think, Uncle Sam wants his cut. And that's the other reason I really haven't monetized my channel, because I've heard other podcasters and content creators, like professionals that have been doing this for ages, and I don't even know. I don't want to have to figure out all that tax BS of like, if you earn, because if you earn a little bit of money, you have to claim it on your taxes, and I don't have W-2s, and I don't even know what is all involved with claiming, like if you're a streamer or a YouTuber and that's your primary source of income, and then you have Patreon or other types of things like that. I don't even have a clue, and I'm comfortable where I am, so I'm just not digging into that can of worms, so I don't get audited and I don't have to figure out all this tax nonsense and having to, oops, I screwed that up and now I got to pay back taxes. I mean, maybe it's not as bad as I think it is, but I don't know. I mean, if I had millions of subscribers, I would much more likely consider it, but for my meager, I'm happy with it, but like I have just over 4,000 subscribers now, which is cool, which is awesome. But that might be just enough to be like, well, I have to figure out all this tax stuff, but it doesn't give me a lot of benefit. So screw it. I'll just not monetize, period. Those are just some thoughts I have, some considerations. If you're, there's a lot of people who, you talk to young people, especially high school, I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be a streamer. It's like, I want to create music videos, or I want have my own TikTok or YouTube channel, and make money and have millions of viewers. Like I said, I'm not saying that you can't do it. I'm not saying that it can't happen, but I would not bank on that as a primary career goal. Start it out as a hobby, start it out as a supplementary thing, but don't give up your day job. Don't give up your any other plans. And if things start going well enough where you can quit your day job, or you can devote yourself full time and still support yourself by doing streaming or YouTube, again, more power to you. Great, congratulations. But it's, again, more and more people are doing it every day, so it's going to be harder and harder for you to get noticed and for you to get and maintain that audience. And so just know there's a lot of work ahead and you're going to have to put in. It's not just like start throwing out videos and you'll be making millions in no time. That's not the way it's going to work. There's a lot more to it than that. And I wish people the best who want to give it a shot. But those are some things that I would consider should you decide to enter this world of streaming and videos and social media and such. I hope you guys found this helpful. Give it a like if you did. Follow me on Twitter at BGFH79, twitch.tv/illegally-cited, illegally-cited.com, and right here on YouTube. Until next time, I will chat with everybody again later.